Right, so picture this. March 2025, the world is as ever a simmering pot of geopolitical weirdness. And just when you thought things couldn't get more interesting, British Columbia, Canada's westernmost province, drops a bombshell. Premier David Eby announced that BC would be imposing tolls on American commercial vehicles using BC roads to get to Alaska. It's like your neighbor suddenly charging you to use their driveway to get to your own garage. This wasn't some vague statement. This was a full-throated, get-ready-to-pay-up, Uncle Sam declaration. The plan was to introduce actual legislation, legally binding charges for U.S. commercial trucks. You can almost hear the cash registers cha-chinging in Victoria. The target? Commercial vehicles heading from the lower 48 states through BC to Alaska. For years, this route has been a vital artery for Alaskan supply chains. And now, British Columbia is essentially saying, nice lifeline you've got there. Be a shame if someone monetized it. This decision was a calculated response designed to send a clear message south of the border. The announcement was quite the spectacle, with a large Canadian flag as a backdrop and Eby's party members chanting, "Canada! Fasten your seatbelts, America! It's going to be a bumpy and potentially expensive ride." So what possessed British Columbia to transform its highways into a paper passage system for Alaska-bound American commerce? The primary driver was none other than Donald J. Trump. Premier Eby stated these tolls were a direct, retaliatory measure in response to Trump's threats of a 25% tariff on Canadian goods. It's the classic, if you punch us, we'll punch back, but with a road usage fee strategy. Premier Eby described Trump's actions as an unprecedented threat to Canada, suggesting an attempt to weaken Canadian sovereignty. The tolls become less about revenue and more about drawing a line in the sand. This move by British Columbia was framed as a defense of national integrity and economic independence. Canada was preparing to stand strong, protect their economy, and ensure their northern sovereignty remained intact. Now let's talk about the man who, according to British Columbia, started this whole kerfuffle, Donald J. Trump. As of early March 2025, he was poised to begin his second term as U.S. president. The news from BC about these new Alaska access fees would have landed with all the subtlety of a dropped anvil. Knowing Trump's penchant for expressive communication, a fiery response was practically guaranteed. Trump's America First policy often translates to everyone else slightly less first, and tariffs have always been a favorite tool in his economic toolkit. The threat of a 25% tariff on Canadian goods was the spark, and BC's toll was the responding firework. Trump was reportedly planning to hit the ground running upon his inauguration, signing numerous executive orders. The BC tolls would have been seen as a direct challenge to his authority and his trade agenda. The fluctuating nature of Trump's tariff policies only adds to the uncertainty and tension. This unpredictability pushed Premier Eby towards preemptive action. If you can't predict the punches, you might as well put your guard up and maybe even throw a jab of your own. The BC tolls were that jab, aimed squarely at Trump's economic pressure points, daring him to escalate. These tolls on Alaska-bound commerce weren't just an isolated reaction from British Columbia. Premier David Eby was thinking bigger. This was part of a broader suite of measures designed to protect BC's economy and reduce its reliance on the sometimes volatile economic whims of its southern neighbor. Think of it as BC deciding to build its own economic fortress. The overarching goal was to make British Columbia more self-sufficient. This strategy involved strengthening local industries and ensuring BC's economic fate wasn't solely tied to the mood swings of Washington, D.C. Premier Eby's announcements signaled a clear intent to shield BC from destabilizing U.S. policies. This wasn't just about weathering the storm of potential Trump tariffs. It was about fundamentally re-evaluating the economic relationship. Eby was also planning to pass legislation for rapid response to U.S. executive orders. This proactive stance indicates how seriously BC was taking the threat of American protectionism. The message was clear. BC was battening down the hatches, ready to deploy its own economic arsenal in this unfolding trade drama. Part of British Columbia's grand strategy involved a direct message to its own government departments: stop buying American stuff. Premier Eby directed the provincial government to halt the purchasing of American products. This is protectionism in its most straightforward form. If the US was going to make it harder for Canadian goods to cross the border, then BC was going to make it harder for American goods to find a home in its government offices. This procurement pivot is significant. Redirecting spending towards Canadian businesses can provide a tangible boost to the local economy. It's about keeping taxpayer money circulating within Canada. While the practicalities of ceasing all American procurement might be complex, the intent is clear. It's a deliberate move to lessen economic dependence and bolster national industry. This policy sends a strong signal to Canadian producers. It tells them that their government is actively looking to support them, encouraging a broader shift in consumer and business behavior. British Columbia decided to hit them where it hurts, the liquor stores. Premier David Eby ordered provincial liquor stores to cease selling alcohol originating from Republican-led states. If your state was governed by a Republican, your bourbon or craft beer might suddenly find itself persona non grata on the shelves of BC liquor stores. This is a targeted piece of economic retaliation. It's not a blanket ban on all American alcohol, but a politically selective one. This move transforms the act of stocking liquor store shelves into a political statement. The intended impact is likely twofold. Firstly, it's symbolic, a clear message of displeasure aimed directly at the political party of the president. Secondly, it could be felt by specific distilleries and wineries in those Republican-led states. This liquor blockade raises questions about its implementation and potential blowback. Will consumers seek out alternatives from other countries or non-Republican U.S. states? Regardless of these complexities, the decision itself is a clear indicator of BC's willingness to use unconventional measures in this escalating trade dispute. Now let's shift our gaze north to Alaska. For Alaska, British Columbia isn't just some distant Canadian province. It's the essential corridor through which a significant portion of its goods travels from the lower 48. The announcement of tolls on this vital route was not well received. Alaska Governor Mike Dunleavy expressed his concerns, urging against unilateral provincial actions by BC. From Alaska's perspective, they're just trying to get their supplies, and now they're caught in the crossfire of a trade war. The potential impacts are significant. Alaska State Senator Robert Myers pointed out the vulnerability of fresh produce supplies and the oil industry. The Alaska Trucking Association warned that tolls would increase transportation costs, raising prices for essential goods. For Alaska, these tolls represent a direct hit to their economy and cost of living. Implementing such a bold tolling system on an international thoroughfare isn't as simple as just putting up a sign saying "pay here." There are considerable challenges and unanswered questions. Firstly, there's the matter of infrastructure. You need toll booths, electronic systems, enforcement mechanisms. This all costs money and takes time to implement. Then there's the issue of international agreements. The Alaska Highway has a history steeped in international cooperation. There may be existing treaties that could complicate the imposition of tolls. Lawyers on both sides of the border would undoubtedly be examining clauses with intensity. Beyond these challenges, the broader Canadian response also started to take shape. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and other provincial leaders announced retaliatory measures, indicating a coordinated Canadian pushback. British Columbia's decision to impose tolls represents more than just a regional squabble. It's a bold political maneuver that signals a significant shift in the relationship between Canada and the United States. This isn't just business as usual. This is a clear statement that Canada will not passively accept perceived American economic bullying. The measures implemented by Premier Eby are designed to secure a stronger, more economically independent future for British Columbia. It's a strategy born out of a desire to reduce vulnerability to the political and economic whims of its powerful southern neighbor. The situation is highly dynamic and expected to evolve rapidly. How the U.S. federal government responds will be critical. This episode serves as a stark reminder of how interconnected local and international politics truly are. The road ahead looks anything but smooth.